welcome back to another TSTerra Plays Riftbound. Okay, so in today's video, I am going to go over the basics of playing Riftbound. So to start off with, we'll kind of cover what you need, how many cards in each section you need, the basic of what each card technically is, its use in the game, and just the basic rule sets. To make this clear, this is just a basic understanding of how to play Riftbound. It is not going to cover in-depth card details, card descriptions, as well as card effects and stuff. Just the basics of understanding the game. In a future video, I'll cover more in-depth concepts of how to play specific cards, how it works with the ruling, and all of that. But for right now, we're just going over the bare basics of Riftbound. So, the very first thing you'll need to play in any tournament or just basic game is you're going to want 3 battlefields. Now, the reason you pick 3 is because if you're playing the best 2 of 3, you cannot ever reuse a battlefield from round 1 to round 2, and this is what you're going to be trying to conquer to score points in the game, and the point is to get 8 points. I'll go over that in just a little bit. But ideally, you would pick a battleground that you own that you like, and your opponent would pick a battleground that they like. Some people also like to just shuffle their battlegrounds, lay 3 out like this, and let their opponent pick a randomized one. It is up to you and up to the tournament you're playing how that goes. But from what I understand, most tournaments, the person, when it's best 2 of 3, you pick the one you want. You cannot use that for round 2. If you go to a round 3, you could put that one back up. So, for the basics, let's just say I'm going to put this one out, and my opponent might put that one out. And then I'll put this one off to the side. The next thing you'll need is 12, and you can only have 12 rune cards. These are basically, if you play Magic or Pokemon, your lands and or your energies. I think they relate more to Magic with lands. So you're going to need 12 of these, and we'll go over these colors right now. So, the next thing you'll need is your Legendary Championship. Your Legendary Champion basically determines what color your deck will be. So if you play Magic, that could be Swamp, Mountain, Island. If you play Pokemon, that would be Fire, Psychic, Electric. And you go off of these top. Now, unlike Magic and Pokemon, where if you're playing a primary Swamp deck, you can still run other colors, that does not work in Riftbound. If you have a Fire and or a red and purple color on your champion, that is the only colors you can have in your deck. You cannot have a green, even if it doesn't require a green to play. If the color down here is green, for an example, if it's like this where it's green, this one's green and yellow, you cannot play this card. You can't have it in your deck, you can't utilize it. It has to be a red, purple, or red-purple card. And this card is always off to the side. Now, like I said, with that determining, your 12 runes all have to be some form of that color. Now, this deck that I have is a pre-made deck. It's the pre-made A&E deck. And it guarantees me 6 red and 6 purple. If I wanted to, I could tweak this and make it 4 purple, 4 red, or 4 purple, 8 red, any form of 12. You can even technically do 1 purple and 11 red if you really want. That all depends on the way you're playing your deck and deck composition, which I might get into future videos. The next thing is having a deck of 40 cards. With your 40 cards, you also include 1 champion unit. This champion unit that you choose will go off to the side, and I'll show this outlay or layout in just a second. that champion unit you can bring into the game at any point. You do not have to draw them, but they do count towards your deck of 40. This is your playing cards. This is basically all the cards you draw and you play. This combines your spells, your creatures, or your champions in this game, as well as your item cards. So, now that we have all of that out and what you need to play the game, we'll kind of bring the camera back and you will see how at least I lay my deck out of strategy. So the 2 cards are up here. I like my legendary unit off to the side and my champion unit right next to them in case I want to summon them. My playing deck is here. This is my recycle or my trash. And then my runes are off to my left. Some people like to do, I think the board has it set up where your trash is below. I like it off to the side. That's kind of what I'm comfortable with from Magic. And then obviously this would be all your play area, and this is going to be your rune area. So, from here, now that we understand the basics of everything you need, the only extra thing you might need, which again, I'm not going to get too much into this video, is recruits and buff cards. These determine, you play them determining on whether you have cards that require them. This deck actually does not require buff or recruit cards at all. So again, we'll get into a future video of when those come in, but it's depending on the card. So now that we're ready to start, we're ready to play and dive into the basic rule sets. Everyone at the beginning of the game is going to draw 4 cards. You then can look at your cards and see, do you want to keep all 4 or do you want to mulligan? Everyone is allowed to mulligan up to 2 cards. So let's say I don't like those 2, or if I just didn't like one, I could just mulligan 1 card. And mulligan means you recycle it, so you put it underneath your deck. You then draw an additional card or 2 depending how many you mulligan, and that is now the beginning. So the next step is to determine who goes first and who goes last. Some people like to do age, some people might do a die roll, high number gets to choose. It's really up to you as the player and who your opponents are if you want to choose who goes first and who goes last. Because if you go last in this game, you get to channel 3 runes. You get to channel 1 extra rune only on your first turn. If you go first, you only get to channel 2 runes. If you're going second and third and there's a 4th player, second and third player all get to channel 2 runes. Second and third also gets to draw a card. First player, I believe, does not get to draw a card. You can let me know if I'm correct or not on that, but I believe in 4 people. First player does not draw, they only channel. Second and third draws, channels 2. The last person, and again, this is if it's 2 people, 1v1, or 4 people, the last person, only on their first turn, draws a card and channels 3. For the rest of the game, you only get to channel 2. So, from here, we play out the game. So just to make life a bit simpler, I'm going to lay my cards out down here to just show, and we're going to get into some really quick basics. So let's say I'm going first. I get to channel 2 runes. From here, I can tap a rune, or I can tap all 2 if I was to choose so, and I can summon my Mystic Vapora. Now that he comes into play, he comes in as what I like to call in Magic is tapped. This game uses Exhausted, so since he comes in Exhausted, he cannot do anything else this turn, except for his effect if I wanted to do it. But again, we're going to go over all the effects in a later video. At this point, I don't really have anything else I can do that wouldn't involve using crazy effects. So I would then pass my turn to my opponent. They would then channel and play their hand out. Now on my next turn, the game developers like to use what's called ABC. So, A would be accelerating or, tapping everything, as well as channeling your runes. So I would bring 2. B would be battleground points. So in this game, you want to earn 8 points. You get points by conquering these and holding through a turn. So since I don't have anything, I don't get any points. The goal is to get 8 points. And then lastly, I would draw a card. From here, I could tap more stuff, bring out more stuff, but to make life a bit more simple and to kind of explain, let me just add one more rune. Again, this is just to showcase some stuff in the game. We do not need these anymore. Put them off to the side. If I wanted to summon Annie, she requires 5. And anything underneath, this means to recycle. So what I would do to bring Annie in is I would tap all 5 of my runes, and then I would have to recycle 1 red, which means I could take it, put it underneath my rune deck, and then she comes into play, and she would come in, of course, exhausted. So that is the recycling method. Some cards might say you need to recycle 2, 3, 4. So not only do you have to tap 5, you have to recycle 1. Now I did recycle an exhausted rune. That is something you can do. That is a strategy. It is actually suggested that you exhaust runes that are tapped. Because let's say she only required me to tap 2 and exhaust 1. I could still have all 3 of these untapped and keep summoning or playing more things in the game. So that is something to keep in mind when you are playing. Now to wrap this video up, basically since I have my Mystic Purpura that is not exhausted, I could choose whichever battleground I want to go to. If I go here, units have +1 extra might, which is the attack system. And if I defend here, chosen units, it gains shield this combat. So if I'm defending here and someone else is attacking me, all my units would gain, chosen unit. Any unit I would choose would gain an extra 2 defense. That means this unit would have 4 might, but it would only have 2 attack. So someone would have to attack it with 4 damage, like Ani has, to kill it, but it would not kill Ani. We'll go over Showdowns very quickly. But let's just say I send my Mystic Purpura there, and then I get a point for conquering. So that is how you score points, is by conquering, bumping someone out of the battleground, or holding this. So let's say it's my opponent's turn. Keep it simple. They can't do anything because they don't have cards. And now it comes back to my turn. I would then again channel 2. Get my point for holding, draw a card. And that is the basics of Riftbound. Now, to just understand how attacking goes, let's say my opponent has an Ani, and they want to come and attack me. Like I said, Ani has 4, this gentleman has 2. The units here all have +1, so Ani would be attacking with a 5. This guy is attacking with a 3. If I'm attacking, I can also choose to play spell cards, which I don't even have any in my hand. So let's just get a quick spell card. Let's say I had a spell card. I had Incinerate, and I had the runes to cast it. I could choose, as the attacker, to play Incinerate against Annie and deal 2 damage to her, bringing her down to a 4 attack, 2 HP for this turn. So then my Mystic Purpura would die, but kill her and clear that battlefield. Now, if Annie was attacking me, I could still, as a reaction, Incinerate, but then Annie, if Annie's deck had anything to buff her, or to do extra damage, or retreat her, they could put a reaction onto me to then remove my spell and allow Annie to kill this without dying, therefore conquering the point, therefore getting a point for conquering. Again, showdowns are a bit more complicated. In the future, I might dive into doing a full showdown tutorial, as like I said, this was mostly just for the basics, and I'm not gonna lie, holding the camera the whole time, I want to find a better way to do this. I promise I will in the future. But yeah, that's about it. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comment section. I'll do my best to answer. This game is a bit confusing when you're first playing, but I do promise as you play more and more rounds and you're playing against nice people who help and aid you, it actually starts to become a lot more simple, especially with the runes. This is, like I said, a lot like Magic with the tapping, exhausting, accelerating, all that stuff. Very similar to Magic's whole system. The only thing different is Magic, you usually don't recycle cards, putting them back under your deck. Just like you can recycle cards here that go under your deck and not trash. Cards that go in the trash would like be this spell card or these creatures if they died. Then they go into what's called the trash. And yeah, that's about it. The goal is to get 8 points. Once you receive 8 points, you win. You can only get your 8th point by, I believe, either conquering both spots. If you conquer one, you cannot get your 8th point if you're at 7. Or holding a territory from 7 to 8. So in other words, let's say I had 7 points and I held this territory. It's my opponent's turn. They cannot kick me off this territory. It rolls into my turn. I get my 8th point and win the game. So that is the basics of Riftbound. I hope I did my best explaining all the rules, at least the basic rules that I could. Again, if you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer. If you like this content, go ahead and hit that like button. And if you're not subscribed, please consider doing so, as I greatly appreciate it. And it would help me out with this brand new channel that I'm working on. And let's enjoy everything, and I hope to see you all in the Rift.